Wow. Yeah, so I'm probably gonna make more YouTube videos now. Hopefully I won't go on another hiatus. This upload line is looking real good right now. Compared to last year. And maybe the year before. Oh shit, I need to make a new susctopus episode. Hey guys, it's susctopus here, and happy Halloween! It's pumpkin fucking season, so you know what that means. I'm a huge fan of little analog knickknacks, and I would stick my dick inside of an iMac G3, which is why I got this cool CRT TV with the VCR from hey kid, you want some rare mint condition GameCube games at a fair and cheap price? Yes. $300, huh? I'm stealing a TV. Fuck these fat reseller people. I'm back with the memory card and oh fuck you! I want to see if this VCR actually works. I'll just throw in a tape in here and... Hey guys, it's susctopus here, and... Whoa, holy shit, the tape is doing thing. Hey, that's pretty scary, huh? Analog horror is a popular genre of videos that people obsess over in recent times, and I would be lying if I said I didn't like analog horror as well. I am a dick rider for the aesthetic of old things, just as much as your average e-boy. I loved it so much that I built a time machine and took myself back 22 years ago and bought myself all the GameCube games I need, because fuck retro game collectors. I have said this before, but there's just this attention to detail in old things, something as simple as a pool toy from 2003. I love just the atmosphere of a creepy image just staring at you on the screen while it's just silent and you can hear the static of the tape. It is nice to have this and not things that rely on just jump scares, something that has been quite oversaturated in the last decade, which is why I think a lot of people like this genre so much. It has some sort of nostalgia. I don't know what kind of nostalgia because most of the audience are just TikTokers that have never grown up in the 90s and probably have never grown up with a VCR. Only 90s kids can remember this. I think this might have to do with some problems with analog horror itself. More on that later. If you are watching this video to see the same rants and points that people have argued to death about, you are wrong. I am not going to bitch about the quirky features and misconceptions of analog horror. The same plot of a world-ending scenario, of alienated life forms, or archives of old establishments that have cryptic info on a serial killer, or maybe errors that break the illusion of these made-up tapes looking like they're from the 80s and 90s. Or maybe I could rant about the repetition of melted faces, loud noises, and things followed by an awkward silence and a black screen. Yeah, I'm sure everybody knows about these, dipshit. You are not the first person to have this sudden revelation. In fact, I can go as far as to say that you are the problem with analog horror. Yeah. Ooh, someone mentioned that they like analog horror. Let me give my take that no one asked for and be an analog horror donkey, because they definitely want to hear my aggressive opposing opinion. I think you know where I'm going with this. Yes, analog horror has problems. Yes, the same repeated arguments are valid and a lot of the stuff said is true, but that's not gonna stop me from making a 10-minute video on this shit. What works with analog horror? Why is it so popular in the first place? A lot of analog horror series have their own twist to them, which makes room for multiple different ones to be praised. A lot of analog horror involves the era of VHS, and using the flaws of VHS, the primitive graphics recreated to make this more believable, and the culture behind it. There's a lot of culture packed into the era, from the mid-70s all the way to the mid-2000s, a whole 3 decades of content. And even then, real broadcasts from that era have their own creepiness to it, like the... Even the Max Headroom incident, a broadcast hack that has so much mystery behind it, and people to this day still don't know who is behind it. There's a lot of effort to scare people on the internet nowadays. You can no longer just make a lost episode and just use the base Sony Vegas effects, or edit someone's eyes to make them black with a red dot, sometimes with blood coming out of it. You also can't just rely on jump scares either. Yeah, you can get people to jump, but it wears off after a while and gets repetitive when you use it enough. And people consider jump scares as cheap horror. Which is why analog horror works. It forces... I fucking got you. Oh my god, you would have never expected that to happen.
I know where you live.
Oh yeah, right, you're just saying that. You are not gonna go to my fucking house just to scare me. What are you gonna do? Point a gun at me on my front door? Oh, ooh, there's a knock on my door. Fuck you, you're not scaring me. This bit is so fucking overused. Try a little harder, dipshit. What the fuck? Excuse me for a second. I don't know if they're gone. Please help me. This is scaring me a lot. Analog horror works because it forces creators to put a lot of effort into making it not only scary, but believable. You can tell the difference between people that make good ones versus the people that make bad ones. Just because you put that one VHS effect doesn't mean that it looks like a VHS. Yeah, it doesn't look like it, huh? Speaking of what doesn't work, why do people hate analog horror? Because a kid over-obsesses about it, and overhypes it, and ruins it for one person to make a post about it online, and people who have the other same experiences circle jerk their hate about it, and overanalyze flaws that people won't regularly see until someone points it out. I could say that for a lot of things. Other than the audience, what are some real flaws of analog horror itself? Well, as I said, VHS ranged from the 70s to the 2000s. It sounds like a lot of possibilities, but people are only limited to the culture from that era. Sure, people could cover the era of film reels, but that would be a lot harder, and there is so much variation of film, like the size of the film, if it has color or not, and if it even has sound. This alone could be its own genre of horror, like real horror or something, I don't know. And also, there seem to be really two types of analog horror, the unknown lifeform genre or the serial killer archive genre. The majority of them are just from the unknown lifeform genre, mostly things that trick the human mind through the use of false information or the appearance in general. On paper, that is thought out immensely well, which is part of the reason why it has its creepiness. It's just that if there's so many of these being made, it will become just a common thing, and unimpressive. What is a common thing spanning through all of analog horror is the well, if you point it out, this is the common thing to poke fun at when criticizing analog horror. I'm pretty sure you've seen those parody videos. That's pretty funny. Is that the internet's only criticism of it? That's stupid. Like, what else are you supposed to do? Distorted Photoshop faces have been around for forever, so you cannot say shit like that. Loud noises have been around for forever as well. The only thing that is new is the silent screen with the creepy thing in the middle, and that could still be used in other genres. It just looks more natural in this format. So what has been made with analog horror? You kinda have to dissect individual channels or videos just to see what they've done, and how unique it is. Excuse my new recording setup. I guess the first analog horror series ever made is hard to pin out. You can consider the movies Ghost Watch and the Blair Witch Project as the very first analog horror. If not, maybe this video in 2006 named Agamemnon Counterpart, or maybe the Wyoming incident in 2007. If not, we can get into more modern times with CHSS and ECVA in 2016. But from then on, we move into more very familiar territory. Local 58 began on October 31st, 2017, starting with "You are on the fastest available route." From then on, it is very clear what pattern is taking place. Local 58 is a public access TV channel located in Mason County, West Virginia, created all the way from the 1930s. As time progresses, there have been many broadcast hacks that took place, as you can see in each video of the YouTube page. This falls into the unknown life form genre, specifically the moon is its own living being. This was the first analog horror series that I've watched, probably for most people as well, and I believe to have watched this at around Christmas of 2018 when Etika reacted to this on stream. Way to scare me for Christmas. It was very new and very unique, and the series still holds up quite well today compared to others. Although this wasn't the very first analog horror, this series alone defined a genre. And then they dipped when it got too popular. The first FNAF VHS video was posted on July 25th, 2019, and is part of the cryptic serial killer genre. I believe this is the closest someone could get to the VHS effect that I've seen, unless they use an actual VCR, I don't know. All of the videos make use of the Five Nights at Freddy's models, which I think fits well if you are trying to make something on FNAF. I believe I discovered this around 2020. This is honestly great because just the fear of something you feel like is gonna happen just scares you. Sometimes it does go in for a jump scare, and sometimes it doesn't. Something I really do not like, however, from the series is that a lot of these scenes get memed, which is fine itself. It was pretty funny back then. But the way the creator of the series handles it, it's just like, shut up. I remember someone tried to make a recreation of this series which was greenlit by the original creator, but was stopped after something happened. The way they said to stop is just like, I don't know how to explain it. I mean, no disrespect to Squimpus.
I love eating raw bugs and insects.
Other than that, this was great to watch, even the remake. It was just kind of sad to see the remake being cancelled because that one was good too. We are now going into peak popularity of analog horror, starting in 2020. By the time the first Walton Files video was released, Local 58 had slowed down in production, and FNAF VHS was starting to go on its way out. The Walton Files is fine. Like, I don't think the art style fits with the VHS look, honestly. And there are some times that I can't help but just laugh.
The fuck going on in Miami, bro? Boy, she would've got in that bitch. No, shit, that shit just disappeared.
This fits into the cryptic serial killer category, and is basically very similar to Five Nights at Freddy's. Yeah, you call it Bond's Burgers. It's still great with how it recreates the VHS style, and some parts are still pretty creepy. This one was obviously riding the popularity of Mario 64. When the Mario 64 Iceberg video was posted, starting an entire genre of videos in the Iceberg format. In this, stuff like the Wario apparition and the every copy of Mario 64 is personalized theory has gained traction from it. At around the same time, the anti-piracy screen genre of videos rose in popularity. And around the same time as well, the Giga Leak happened, exposing assets from many different Nintendo games, including Mario 64. Now isn't this a perfect time to create an analog horror ARG surrounding the development of Mario 64? I honestly love this channel, with a lot of soundtracks, gameplay, and even renders being made, and could be passed off as extremely believable to outsiders. A lot of the horror of this as well is very subtle, as most of the videos are completely fine, and comes from the horror of early 3D platformers itself that really creeps people out. Sadly, this channel was cancelled after a falling out with the production team. That really sucks. At least we still got the parody videos from the people that worked on it, still capturing the essence of the channel. This is, I believe, to be the time where analog horror peaked, with the release of the Mandela catalog starting on June 9th, 2021. And just when you thought FNAF VHS and the Walton Files was talked about to death, oh boy, people have opinions on this series. Some people say it's the only good one, and some people say it's fucking terrible. Back then, I was on the fucking terrible side of people. It did not make sense. There were so many things about analog horror that was popularized from Mandela catalog, seeming like it was being overused. And also, it was another unknown lifeform type series. And also, I thought analog horror was dead at the time. For a while, I was just disgusted by this. Like, there were others that did analog horror way better. You're telling me that this tape is in widescreen? I mean, to be fair, there are tapes in widescreen, but it would be like this. But as time went on, the more people talked about this series, the more I came to respect the guy behind it, Alex Kister. Whenever there was a critique video on his series, he's always so respectful. One comment I've read from him said this: "Hey, I completely understand all your criticisms. I'm not trying to excuse my faults, but I started this as a fun little passion project after being obsessed with Gemini/Walton Files/Local 58, etc. with absolutely no video editing experience. I think I've improved at least a little bit though. But even that can be debated, Lamau. Now having more experience, it pains me so fucking much seeing the cringy ass editing errors in my first few videos. I just never expected the series to blow up as much as it has. By the way, it's so nice for me to finally see a Mandela catalog criticism video that's like actually constructive criticism and not just a hate video. Thank you so much for that, seriously. I don't blame you at all if you want to forget this series even exists. But now I have a small team of people helping me with visuals, and it's such order to make this as authentic as possible for future installments. So if you ever want to check that out, should be around April or so, that would be awesome. It should redeem myself at least a little bit, lol. After reading this comment, it all made sense now. I'm sure it was very clear that this series was inspired by previous ones, but this started when the guy was 18, with zero editing experience. I asked myself, how good would I make an analog horror series? That's right, I can't even make proper videos even now, so I applaud him. It's also worth noting how much potential hate he has gotten over the years, and how good he handles it. Watching the series again, it really has an interesting story, and his production quality has improved over the episodes.
In that small cap.
I know Gemini Home Entertainment has been around for a while, when Local 58 was still active, but I am just going by each series when I watch them, with Gemini Home Entertainment being watched after Mandela Catalog. It's another one of those unknown lifeform genres, and it's clear that there was the use of the analog effect with a VHS filter over it, but the real life shots are impressive. And there's actually a game made for this ARG, something you don't see often in others. There's not that much to say about this series, other than it's a good adaptation of the backrooms in video form, with a lot of 3D renders being used to look real. I don't know how people put those backrooms edits on YouTube. Can someone edit me in there? This is one of my favorite analog horror series ever. It's Gilbert Gottfried as Garfield. And a lot of other shit too, but it's Gilbert Gottfried as Garfield. This is obviously a parody of Marble Hornets, and not all of it is analog, but the variety really sells it. It's actively ongoing too, with uploads being sometimes daily. And that is all the notable analog horrors that I myself have watched. I've watched an iceberg video covering the more obscure ones. Well, nothing going on, but most of them really don't seem interesting enough, with a vastly lower production quality. You really need some knowledge to make a good series, and a lot of planning. If I made one right now, I would probably make one video and just give up after like 3 months. So, shout out to all the creators behind all of these.
1, 7, 4, 5, 3.